Well, what's old is new once again. Welcome back to Squared Circle Radio. We are live on the air, coming to you after the biggest Monday Night Raw in the 32-year history of the longest episodic television show in history. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. Joining me, as always, it's my brother from another mother, Jared Justice. It's the young buck, Andy York. Andy's still got his Christmas tree up. I've still got mine up. I can guarantee Jared has his up. You just can't see it. Fellas, it's the first time that we are here in 2025. We took a little holiday hiatus. So before we get into tonight's action, Jared, how was your holidays, man?
Pretty good, man. Can't complain. Got some cool presents and got to see everybody and spend time with family. So pretty good. Can't complain.
Andy, did you get stuck in Buffalo again?
Not for Christmas. We did for Thanksgiving. 11 hours on the interstate, just sitting in snow that was piling up taller than I am. But other than that, and getting the flu this past week, it's been a fun holiday season. But we're through it, and we're looking forward to the new year.
Nothing like ringing in 2025. Jared, I tried to tell Andy, and I hope his wife's not listening. I'm sure she is. He needs to quit going to Buffalo because he gets stuck and it takes him 3 days to get home every time that he goes. Apparently, his wife's family might have a problem with that. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't sound like a fun trip, but hey, you do you, man.
Yeah, we break droughts. I'm pretty sure if we went in July, it would snow somehow. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you are just now stumbling upon our show, welcome to Squared Circle Radio, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. Again, like I said, we took a little holiday hiatus, but we are back. We could not miss the first Monday Night Raw on Netflix. We got to talk all about it again. If this is your first time here, like the video. It's a thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate it so much. We are live. Drop your questions. Drop your comments in the chat. We will get to as many of those as we can. You guys drive the show. I say it all the time. I've got pages of notes here of stuff we can go over. But if you guys are dropping your comments and questions, we're going to talk about that, not what we'd planned on. So the show is for the fans, by the fans. Let's get into it, guys. Monday Night Raw it's in the books, a brand new look, feel. We're on Netflix now, no time constraints. The refs have new shirts. There's a black canvas. There's just all kinds of new stuff. So, Jared, I'm going to throw to you. As a guy who's been watching Raw since it started in 1993, or at least pretty close to it, what was your impression of just the overall presentation of this new era of Monday Night Raw?
I like it overall, man. The black mat, I really like it. The ones like they have used in NXT before. I thought that everything looked very sleek. It looked like it was presented very well. The cat's trying to attack my iPad here, so if it starts moving. But no, man, overall, I thought it was a great presentation. It felt different. It didn't feel like you were taking constant commercial breaks and all that stuff. It just, I don't know, man. I liked it. I thought it felt kind of like a hybrid between Raw and a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it flowed a lot better than I thought it would. Especially, I think we all kind of were nervous about how this was going to go after the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fiasco and, everything breaking down with Netflix during that time. But, I mean, everything seemed to run really smooth. It looked really nice. I think we talked about it off air. Doing it in LA was probably the best way to start this off because they have probably one of the best, if not the best arenas in the country right now with all the things that they're able to do. Yep. And so it looked really, really nice the way that they presented everything. I enjoy especially for a show like this, a smaller set because there's just something about seeing not just the hard cam side full, but like the entire arena was completely full. And so I think that's a really great look for them. Now, if they can do that week to week, that's another question. But it looked really good. And like you said, the black mat looked awesome. I was worried about the sponsorships, especially with Fortnite being like right in the middle. I saw the preview of that, but it didn't really take away from anything. Like it didn't distract me as much as I was afraid it was. So I was a big fan of it.
Yeah, I know as traditional wrestling fans, I know when the Prime sponsorship came up, we were like, oh my goodness, like this is just terrible. Can you imagine these iconic scenes with a big promo right in the middle of it, you know? But I honestly think like a couple of weeks of that, and most people are over it at this point. You know, now that there's like 9 sponsorships on the mat, okay, it might have been a little excessive, but again, in 2-3 weeks, we're going to be totally over it. It's not going to bother us. It's still wrestling at the end of the day. And Jared, great point about the NXT. I was going to bring that up. They used to use the black mat. We're using a blue mat on SmackDown. I think it's definitely different. It's super, super cool. New announce table with some neon lights on the side. I thought that was really, really cool. One thing, Andy, that I'll bring up, you mentioned about the arena, and this is like the newest, hippest, hottest arena in America right now. The Intuit Dome just opened right before the NBA season for the Clippers. So one of the things that I noticed on their seats, they have these LED lights or whatever it was. It's on every seat, and they were all red, and they turned yellow at one point for Hulk Hogan, which we'll get to later. But they were all red throughout the night, and it looks super cool. Andy, I think WWE should sell lights like that you can buy at the merch table so that you have that red look throughout the crowd for every show. I thought it was super cool looking.
Yeah, I think that would be a great way. I mean, even like a wristband would be something easy, or they could honestly like develop an app on your phone that you can download for these shows where your phone does something like that, or your camera does something like that. I think they could do something for that. It looked really, really. I really like that aspect of it because it just makes everything flow so well together. Jey Uso's entrance when he came out and they had all those going, like it looked amazing. It felt kind of like we've talked about. This felt like a Big Four pay-per-view meets Monday Night Raw, and it felt the part. It did the part. It really jumped off on Netflix really well. The thing that we talked about before, though, is like this week was awesome. I'm really curious to see what next week looks like, because next week we go back to normal. It's not as big of a card, even though there's some really interesting stuff taking place next week. I'm curious to see how they are able to maintain, or what they try to maintain week to week from what they kicked off this week.
Yeah, Jared, that's exactly what I was about to throw to you as we look at the presentation of this week. And it was awesome, and it was cool, and it felt like WrestleMania with celebrities and appearances, yada, yada, yada. But next week is coming. We got to do this 51 more times this year. How do they follow that up? What do you think next week looks like? What elements do you think carry over? What new things do we see? That kind of thing.
I definitely think, I think your entrance will carry over. I think the entrance looks like it was probably specifically made for this. The ring mat, the ring ropes, the overall look, I think, other than the little red lights like you all were talking about, which I don't know. I'm not a big arena guy, so I don't know how awesome this place is compared to the other arenas they're going and what they can and can't do. That's out of my scope. But I think it'll go back to having probably a little better matches than we're used to on Raw, but I don't think, of course, there's going to be like a stacked pay-per-view card the entire time. But I think the overall look, and hopefully they can keep that importantness aspect going to where at least for the big matches they can feel like something on pay-per-view, or maybe try to not take commercials around the big matches or something like that.
Yeah, I thought the commercials really flowed well tonight. I thought they did a really nice job of getting those in, because people were wondering where we're going to get commercials on Netflix. What was that going to be like? I know Andy and I were texting before the show, like, are we going to be able to skip them like we used to be able to on TV? Like, can we start later and catch up and that kind of thing? Because a lot of streaming services, once you hit an ad, like it's timed, you can't skip it or anything like that, but you could with this. So I'm curious to see if that changes or if we stick to that model. Either way, Jared, one more quick thing that I want to ask you about, and then we'll get into some other things. The ref shirts, not a traditional referee shirt anymore. What was what were your thoughts?
I like it, man. I liked it. I even liked it whenever they went back to like the retro blue for Saturday night's main event. I I don't care about the old referee zebra shirts or whatever. We've seen those for years and years and years. All your other sports seems like that they have updated their outfits, that like their cameramen, their refs, on and on, even their players wear. So I mean, I'm fine with it.
Andy, did you have an issue with it?
No, not at all. I enjoyed it. I think it looked better, and it's one of those where, like, I think Bully Ray talks about all the time. Referees should definitely be in the background, and honestly, like, wearing those colors on that mat and that background, like, I don't notice the refs as much as I used to. Like, they don't stick out
You
as much.
can't see them,
which is which, like, you know, in moments like with the tribal combat when they got into it and everything like that, then you're like, oh yeah, the ref's here, like he got taken out or whatever.
Yep.
But they did. I mean, I think it does its job really well, and you know, I think it blends in really nicely.
That's a great point, Andy. I didn't even think about that really blended in and really takes them out of the action and from standing out and that kind of thing. That's a great point. All right. It's 2025. It's a new year here on Squared Circle Radio, and we thought we would try to do a couple of things different here. So what the theme of Squared Circle Radio going forward is going to be is we are going to be all about answering the biggest questions in the world of professional wrestling. What's everybody talking about? What insight can we give into the trending topics of the world of professional wrestling? We're going to try to have 5 of those each and every week that we're going to try to give the best answer to. So here's question number 1, Jared, I'm going to throw to you. Let me set this up we had a great open to Monday Night Raw. Triple H with this awesome video package. And then The Rock shows up and the place goes nuts. And it was an awesome, awesome entrance. And The Rock comes out and The Rock cuts a very corporate business-like promo, which you would expect someone from the TKO board to do to kick off Monday Night Raw on Netflix. But it was The Rock, and he still had his final boss vest on. He had the People's Championship, and he still had the entrance and the look. So we just weren't exactly sure what he was going to do. And then Jarrett, he acknowledges Cody Rhodes in this promo. And at the end of the promo, he goes over and he hugs Cody Rhodes. And we're like, no, wait a minute. Are we burying the lead here? Like, what is going on? So before we answer this question, let's talk about The Rock first, because not only did The Rock do this, the next matchup was Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa Tribal Combat. Roman wins the match, and Jared, The Rock is the one that puts the Ulafala on Roman Reigns. No attack, no any of that. It was a straight up passing of the torch. Rock is a babyface. Jared, what were your thoughts this whole time, seeing Rock and just watching this whole thing play out?
So confused. And then just like watching it, and it's like almost a feeling of like being deflated. Like they just popped my bubble. I mean, I've been sitting here wondering like if it's going to be Cody and Rock and like how awesome that's going to be. And then these two friggers hug on worldwide global television. And it's like, I don't understand here. Like, when are we kayfabe? When are we not kayfabe? What's happening? So yeah, man, I didn't like that at all. And I'm like telling my wife, I'm like, okay, he's getting ready to attack. He's getting ready to attack. He's here it comes. And then nothing. And they hug, and then there's the oofa loofah that they put on Roman's neck. And it's just like, I don't understand what is happening. I mean, look at poor Paul. Even he's disgusted by it.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I didn't even know how to feel after watching that. Like, part of me was curious about what's going to happen, and I think after all of this, I don't think we're getting Rock Cody anytime soon or ever at this point. I think they still have seeds planted for Roman Rock, which I think could happen at some point. But I texted Chris, like I texted you this as soon as this was happening. I was like, Rock's not at WrestleMania. Like, this lets me know right now, unless he attacks Roman after the match, which I kind of thought he still would, and then he never did. I thought there is no way The Rock is going to wrestle at WrestleMania this year, because there is no way he would even mention Cody Rhodes' name like that, or go over and hug him, or do the Instagram live thing with him afterwards to show them having a drink together and everything else. Like, it completely destroyed whatever work they did last year, to the point now where I don't see Rock Cody happening at all, which is a disappointment, because that was a match that we were all really looking forward to, almost as much as we were looking forward to Roman Rock at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we talked last year, obviously we were upset that Rock was taking the main event away from Cody, but then he turns into this final boss character, and we're all like, this is the greatest run of The Rock's career.
Yeah.
Like, this is absolutely amazing. And they literally, in a matter of an hour, just like they crumbled up a piece of paper and they threw it away. It's like, wait a minute. Wait, what? Like, I don't know. I'm like you, Andy. I still think there's a big chance that Rock cost Roman the Rumble, or cost him the Chamber, or something, to where he can turn this whole thing around, and maybe he was just, smiling babyface corporate Rock for this night. Okay, I can understand that, and he can sell me on that, because The Rock could, sell us on anything. He's proven that. He can sell me on that, Jared. But man, if they are going to do this story, they took quite a few steps back tonight, man. They're going to have to really, really, we saw them ramp it up last year, Jared, but they're really going to have to do it again this year.
Yeah, I just don't see why, with The Rock and Triple H having the wrestling minds that they do, that they would even consider this, even if they're not going to do it this year, because just like we've all said, that killed it, man. I mean, like, it's gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how they get it back, or why they would.
I don't understand why they would even. I mean, at this point, there's the rabbit's out of the hat. Like, we can't go back. We can't change what we just saw. What we've done.
Put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like,
no. And I think there was a way that they could have tiptoed around it, to where, he's like, I did war with this guy. I know how tough he is. I still don't like him, but I respect what he's done with the championship. Maybe even just go over and shake his hand.
Yep.
But the hug is what really, like, when they hugged, it's
over.
Buried the hatchet. Like, they're done. You can't come back from that, which is very, very disappointing.
Well, Rock even said that he was like, I come in peace, like, to Cody. Yeah. And then he kind of chuckled, and it's like, thanks, man. You just killed. I mean, we all know that. We all know the fake or whatever, but
right.
Cody is the one that did interviews 2 weeks ago with a dang neck brace on, because he took a package pile driver. So he's trying to keep kayfabe alive, but it just I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll get to a little bit more beef about this in just a little bit, but the big question I'm going to ask you first, Jared, it's question number 1 of our 5 questions this week. We just laid everything out with The Rock, Cody, with Roman, Solo, Tribal Combat, Paul Heyman, whole 9 yards. So my question for you, what is next for Roman Reigns? He has essentially defeated the bloodline. He is now the tribal chief again. He's essentially taken down Solo. What's next for Roman Reigns?
Dude, I mean, I guess if there is no Rock, I guess Jacob Fatu. Now we start seeing the rise of maybe Jacob Fatu and him and the other Tongans or whatever, like, kick Solo out. And then you have that version of the bloodline maybe come after Roman. Other than that, man, I don't know what you do. I mean, that's not the only thing that's even bouncing around in my head now that Rock's out.
Yeah, I think the first thing that popped up was Jacob Fatu, but I think that Jacob might be fighting Solo at this point at WrestleMania. Like, I could see that being a real possibility. The only other name that popped up in my head was CM Punk. Like, I think you could do Roman Punk, but I think we're doing 3 of these matches with Seth, and I think the third one takes place at WrestleMania.
So I don't think that happens.
I think we're more likely to get Punk Roman probably like SummerSlam, maybe.
Yep.
And then the other option is you could do, I mean, I don't know how you could make the story work, but you could do Roman Reigns versus John Cena at WrestleMania, because that is a WrestleMania worthy match that we've only seen, I think once at No Mercy a couple years ago.
SummerSlam 2021.
Yeah,
We were
both
there.
those.
We were there.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So I think that could be another option. But again, all these options are not as exciting as what we potentially could have gotten.
All right, let's lay out what's happened before I give you my answer. Roman Reigns, when he came back, said he's coming back for two things. He's coming back for his Ulafala. He's coming back for his WWE Championship. Well, he just got one of them. So would it not make sense to run Roman Cody 3 at WrestleMania again? Like, I know we're entrenched in this Cody, Kevin Owens, possibly Randy Orton storyline, but if Cody wraps this thing up with KO, the third match of the series at the Royal Rumble, does this not open the door wide for Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes Part 3? Then, Andy, to your point about CM Punk, Roman wins the belt back at WrestleMania. He carries it to SummerSlam. There's the favor for CM Punk, because there's no reason to do Punk Roman without the belt if Punk's words are true and that's what he really wants. You know what I mean? If he's really after gold in 2025, he's not going to go after Roman without the belt. So Roman Cody, I mean, it's not exciting, I guess, but they can make it. I don't know.
Isn't the supposedly the goal right now Cena versus Cody? Isn't that what the rumor mills are at least trying to crank out?
Seemingly, yes. I think that's a terrible idea, which I'll get to in just a second. I think that's a terrible idea, but Cody has a lot of options on the table. But Andy, the issue, it seems like, is like Roman doesn't have a lot. He just kicked off Raw on Netflix. We're apparently going to do a tribal chief ceremony on January the 27th. He walked into a locker room with 2K25 on it, so seemingly he's going to be on the cover of the game. We'll find that out soon. So he's clearly your huge star, yet what are you going to do with him?
I mean, there's a real possibility that he's not even necessarily on the WrestleMania card.
Oh no, I cannot get
crazier things have happened.
Try to convince me, but I cannot get behind that at all.
Because I mean, he's wrestled more this year than he did last year, basically at this point.
Are you saying he's out of shape?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, look at me and look at him. There's no way I would ever call that man out of shape.
I was just gonna say ask Jared's wife, because she looks at him all the time.
She reminded me of that earlier, by the way. I was like, that's all right. I mean, I'll take Liv.
I'm not saying that he won't be at WrestleMania. I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's what will end up happening. But I just, you talk about Roman Cody again. I think they did too much with The Rock last year, and then take him out of this whole equation, and that loses a lot of its, like esteem. It loses a lot of what people actually cared about that story, which was Rock and Cody and Roman, that whole triangle group trying to come together, or whatever the case is. So I can see it. I think that's, a good possibility. I would much rather see Cody versus Randy. I would much rather see Cody versus KO at WrestleMania than to see Roman Cody one more time this year. But again, I don't know what you do with Roman if you can't, do anything with The Rock or anything with Jacob.
Yeah. All right. Well, that gives us question number one. We appreciate you guys being with us. If you're tuned in live, drop your questions live in the chat. If you're watching the replay, you can drop questions as well in the chat. We try to respond to each and every one of those comments. We appreciate your support. If you're watching our show and you're not subscribed to the channel, what in the world are you waiting for? Doesn't cost you a thing. Helps us a ton. Make sure you do that. Also, hit that thumbs up button on the video. That helps the algorithm. That helps more people see the video, all that kind of thing. So help us out in that way. We would appreciate it. All right, Andy, I'm coming to you with question number 2 about your boy CM Punk. We mentioned him a little bit ago. He gets the victory in the main event tonight over Seth Rollins, the main event of this massive show. A match that obviously has been built up for years and years and years. CM Punk gets it done in a hard-fought match. But, Andy, the question is, did the match live up to the hype?
That's a very interesting question to ask, I feel like, because the first one of these feuds normally aren't the ones that we remember the most. Obviously, Punk Drew was awesome, but the one that we all remember is that Hell in a Cell match to end the feud. I think this was a great jumping off point for this feud. Like the first match of this feud, I think this delivered in a way that they could get away with adding more to it the next time these two guys get together. I don't know when that will be. I don't know if you want to do this at the Rumble or if you want to do it at Elimination Chamber and have these two guys interact in the Rumble to set that up and then head to WrestleMania or whatever the case is. But I enjoyed it. I think it was a great way. I think it was a smart way to work the match over because, this is the first one-on-one match Punk has had since Hell in a Cell. And it's the first singles match that does not have a stipulation to it since SummerSlam, I think, for him.
Yeah.
So, it was a great way to work it over. I think Seth worked the majority of it in the beginning. I think they both looked really well. The GTSs to Punk from Seth were nasty. Those were some stiff knees to the face.
Yep.
But I enjoyed it. I think it was what it needed to be without setting the bar way too high for them to meet down the line.
I would agree with that. I don't know what I was expecting, but I feel like I was expecting more than what I got. But when I look back at it, I think it was really good. Maybe just like the whole, like a no holds barred aspect would probably be what would really, I think, do it for me as far as making me think, okay, this is going to be good. But as far as if they're going to have stipulations, this was on live TV, this was for free, ever how you want to look at it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think my question was probably unfair. And the reason it was probably unfair is I think this is one of those situations where the hype is just way too massive. And there's nothing you can do. AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, WrestleMania 34. There's no way on planet Earth they were living up to that hype. And I think while this was better than that, I don't think they could have ever gotten to where they needed. Because listen, forget the storyline that they've been running since CM Punk has been back. Look at the history of these two guys over their life, their personal life, their personal attacks that they've had on each other in a public forum and all of these things as recently as 2 years ago. So it's not like they did this 10 years ago. We buried the hatchet and we're done. No. This went on for forever. So I think the hype surrounding this, Jared, was just too much for them to overcome. But I'm like you. It was good. It was enjoyable. Andy hit the nail on the head. There's going to be 3 of these. So let's buckle up. Let's enjoy the first one. Let's see where they go from here. Jared, we've got a Saturday night's main event coming up before the Royal Rumble. You could easily do the second one there because you want Punk in the Rumble. You want Rollins in the Rumble. You could do it at Chamber, like Andy said. Those are the only pay-per-views between now and WrestleMania, so you got to get it in there at some point because, Jared, I think, just like Seth Rollins ended his feud with Edge inside of Hell in a Cell, and just like CM Punk ended his feud with Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell, these two guys, it is a recipe, Jared, for Hell in a Cell.
Oh, yeah, man. And I can't wait to see that. I do think that will deliver. And I do think that just knowing these two guys and how good they can go, as long as Punk doesn't get injured, which is always there. It's always a possibility.
Sure.
But I think that will be the match that people are like, okay, now I feel like I got what I was waiting for. Yeah, I think you're exactly right with that.
Yeah, which I mean is the copy and paste of kind of what we got with Drew and Punk.
Yeah.
I mean, their strap match was fine, but it wasn't that blood feud brutality that we were waiting for. But then all of a sudden at Hell in a Cell, we we got that plus a lot more. I feel like, and it's always hard. I feel like it's always hard for these blood feuds when they start off to have a singles match with no stipulation. Like it's really hard for me to believe, like a perfect example, Triple H versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania 25. Like those two guys hated each other, but then the main event was them just having a standard singles match. And I'm like,
Right.
Triple H does not want to put this dude in a rest hold. He wants to murder him for what he did. So like it's always hard, but these guys did a really good job of, again, maybe not meeting the expectation we had set because the expectation is so high. But I feel like at the end of the feud, we're going to look back and go, every single match, they raised the bar just a little bit more. And they raised the bar just a little bit more. And that's what we want to see from them.
You
Jared,
all were talking about like how those go to sleeps look nasty. Did you all detect any other live rounds? Because that was the big talk, is that most likely these guys would probably work pretty snug.
I think Punk punched Seth a couple times in the face, like legit.
Rollins' face was cut at the end of the night. I don't know if that was an intentional hit or what, but he was cut at the end of the night. Jared, no, what I was going to say was, I feel like that the best way to start a blood feud, like first match, is exactly the way Randy Orton and Kevin Owens had their match at Saudi Arabia, where it was no match and it was just a fight and there was no match. However, when you're going to build Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, you can't do that because it's so disappointing. But like, I feel like that would be a way to get it off the ground. It's like, oh, these guys hate each other so much we couldn't even have a match. But you have to find the balance of where that is, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, historically, that seems like it's always been how it is. You start off with the regular match, and then when the regular rules can't contain them, then you go to WrestleMania and do something crazy.
All right, Benny Mac, let's hold your horses. All right. That is question number 2. Again, if you guys are joining us live, drop your comments, drop your questions. We would appreciate that very much. And if you're watching on replay, continue to do that. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's move away from Monday Night Raw for a second. Let's go to Friday Night SmackDown from this past week, because we finally, let me say it for everybody in the back row to hear me, finally, Tiffany Stratton cashes in. She is your new WWE Women's Champion. So, Jared, I'm going to turn to you with this question, because I'm going to compare Tiffany Stratton's cash in to the most recent successful cash in, and that is Damian Priest. Now, we know that Damian Priest, since losing the World Heavyweight Championship, has really become a popular superstar. But his world title run, when he won it, even when he won Money in the Bank, everybody was kind of like, I'm not really sure that he's ready for it yet. I'll give you this, Jared. Tiffany is way more popular than Damian Priest was now that when she wins the championship. So she doesn't have to worry about that. But how will her title, I guess my question is, how is her title reign going to compare to that of Damian Priest?
Night and day. I think the big difference is with Tiffany, you have people already behind her that wanted her to win the belt. Whereas with Damian, nobody wanted him to win the belt, really. I mean, let's just be honest. And then when he won it, people were like, kind of like you said, really would kind of rather somebody else have it and not sure why this guy does. And then afterwards, of course, it seems like it kind of got a little jet fuel behind him, and his popularity rose. But I think this is going to be completely different because everybody already wanted Tiffany to win. Like, we were excited for it. They've drawn this out as long as they could possibly drag it out. So I think that the setup's different. I think the whole thing. I think this will be Tiffany's rise to success, much like kind of like how Becky Lynch did.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think this is, one of the easier Money in the Bank winners to book winning the title, because people were so. I mean, the moment she won the briefcase, everybody was excited. I remember back to the chamber last year when out of everybody in that pod, elimination chamber, they were chanting Tiffy time. So I mean, she's ready for that main event spot. She's ready for that role, I think. This is the time where her feet is put to the fire, and it's time to let's see what you're made of. Let's see what you can really what you can really do. But my only concern is I hope they do not drag this Nia Jax Tiffany Stratton feud out. I think after the Rumble, 1-on-1, you do it at the Rumble. After that, you're done. Like, you don't need to run it back again. You don't need to do anything like that. I have been hard on Nia a lot. She's gotten somewhat better this year. She's a lot better than where she started. She's still horrible. She's not good, but she's better, which is fine. I'll take it. But I don't want that to be what defines Tiffany Stratton's title run, is that she got stuck in the vortex that is Nia Jax or that. I think it's important to put her against people, like a returning Charlotte Flair, like Becky Lynch whenever she comes back. I think it's important to put her up against people like that than Nia.
Well, let's hold our Nia Jax thoughts to the next question, because the next question is about Nia Jax. So let's hang tight. Okay. So I think, Andy, you brought up a great point about probably running it back at the Rumble. Hopefully that's it. I'm going to harken back to the very first Money in the Bank cash-in. Happened at New Year's Revolution 2006. It was the Rated R Superstar cashing in on John Cena. 3 weeks later, they ran it back at the Royal Rumble, and Cena won the title back. I'm just getting flashbacks of that with Nia Jax winning it back at the Rumble. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't know.
There's a really big difference between John Cena 2006 and Nia Jax 2025. There's a really big difference.
Well, that's true. Okay, that's true.
And it's called talent.
So let me give you the next question. Okay, let me set up the context of this question by acknowledging that not only do we have a new WWE Women's Champion, we have a new Women's World Heavyweight Champion crowned tonight on Monday Night Raw, that being Rhea Ripley. And Jared, not only did Rhea Ripley end the title reign of Liv Morgan, which, by the way, before we go any further, ladies and gentlemen, kudos to Liv Morgan and her 2024 year. She became a bona fide superstar in 2024. In my opinion, the female superstar of the year in 2024. I don't think anybody touched her. That's just my opinion. But Andy, Liv Morgan's 2024 seemingly came out of nowhere at the expense of Rhea Ripley. But what a great title run that was out of nowhere, but she proved herself.
Yeah, she proved herself as a main event top level star for sure. I would probably contend that the women's title really got lost in the Judgment Day vortex, and there were moments where I completely forgot Liv was even world champ until she walked out with the belt. I'm like, oh yeah, she is the women's champ. She did a really good job. It was a hard spot she was put in to follow Rhea Ripley, who, I mean, let's be real honest, was the hottest wrestler, not even like just in the women's category, the hottest wrestler in WWE leaving 2023 heading into 2024.
And who knows when she was actually supposed to lose the title.
Exactly.
Because she was holding on to that thing for dear life.
She was. And people were not happy when she got hurt and had to relinquish the title and injury after injury that kind of plagued her year this year. But credit to Liv, she did a really good job of picking up the pieces. All the things that were wrong with her title reign, I don't think were her fault. I think it was a lot of writing, and I think honestly it's Judgment Day. Like I think Judgment Day was a really big issue this year that held her back. But she did a fantastic job of navigating through all that and making people, care about this feud between her and Rhea.
I think what sums up the whole story, man, is if you look at whenever that Liv first started coming face to face with Rhea and how scared she was, and she had this look in her eye all the time, like, a deer whenever you shine a spotlight at it or something. And then towards the end, you see her just walk right up and basically bump chest with Rhea, like, all right, let's go. And that shows the development of her character from being this weak women's wrestler to all the defenses she had in being a strong women's wrestler.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think she had a fantastic year. I think she developed. I mean, I've said it before. I don't think she needed to be a sleazy type character just to find her right character or to find herself as a wrestler. But I think she just leaps and bounds, improved, and made herself a main eventer. So Rhea Ripley ends the title reign tonight. And then we get the surprise appearance of The Undertaker on Monday Night Raw, giving his support to Rhea Ripley, the new women's champion. But Jared, here's the question. So let's take away Rhea Ripley winning the championship tonight. Let's talk about that reign that we just discussed with Rhea Ripley, 2023 to 24 when she had to relinquish it. So let's put our brains into that title reign. This question came up on social media this week, and it was so ridiculous that I had to include it in the show. Okay, you ready? Did Nia Jax have a better championship reign than Rhea Ripley?
Is that really even a question?
That is really a question. You can see it. It's a screenshot that is not made up. That is a screenshot from social media. Somebody saying the uncomfortable truth, did Nia Jax have a better title reign?
I would like to know where the wrestling travel came from, because they traveled from somewhere that doesn't know much. I mean, how I don't even know what to say about it. Yeah, it's hard to take it serious as a question. But yes, Rhea's run was better. I don't know what else you can say. I mean, Nia sucks. She doesn't suck as bad as she used to.
Correct.
But I mean, she still isn't like what you would see if you looked up good in a wrestling dictionary by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know, man. I can't even take that seriously.
Oh, I can't even.
I'll say I know I just brought her down. I'll say this about her. Her title run was a lot better than I was expecting it to be.
That's fair.
I will give her that. And I'll even say this. Her match with Naomi this past Friday night was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. They did a really good job. Like they knew their strengths and weaknesses in the match, and they stuck to their guns, and they did a great job.
Yep.
But
Nia,
the match,
I feel like Nia finally, I'm sorry to interrupt, Eddie. I feel like Nia finally on this second run found herself as a character and as a wrestler. I feel like when she was there the first time, it was like, okay, you're bigger than all the other women. You have a great smile. You have a great personality. Just get out there and just whatever. Just don't kill somebody. She almost did several times, but just don't kill somebody. And now it's like she's finally finding who she is as a wrestler. Yeah.
She's no longer hated for just punching Becky Lynch in the face. Like she has an actual character now, which I appreciate. I think the thing that drug her title reign down is it was the same story every single week with her. And honestly, I think you could say the same thing about Rhea's title run some and Liv's title run some, is that it was the same thing almost every single week.
Yep.
And so I think, with this new title run with Rhea, I don't think we need to see Liv and Rhea again anytime soon. I think we need to find something different for Rhea to do going into WrestleMania. Let it be unique. Let it be the thing that got her start and coming up with Judgment Day and everything else. But yeah, there's no way that somebody actually thinks Nia had a better title run than Rhea. There's just no way.
Jared, I'm like you. I'd just like to know like who thinks that. I would really love for them to make their case because it just, I mean, that title reign, like Andy said a minute ago, Jared, it made Rhea Ripley a bona fide star in WWE. How anyone could think Nia Jax better run is beyond me.
No, I have no clue.
No clue. None whatsoever. All right, let's get to question number 5, and then we're going to do some quick hitters and get out of here. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. Question number 5 is the GOAT. He returned tonight to begin the farewell tour. John Cena announced tonight that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. Now, if you look at betting odds, he is one of the top favorites to actually win the Royal Rumble. I contend that John Cena is already advertised for the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, so why have him win the Rumble? Put him in the Elimination Chamber match, make it his last-ditch effort to try to get a championship match or whatever. He hinted at telling that story tonight. So, Jared, I'm going to go to you first. My question is, who is John Cena's final WrestleMania opponent going to be? Not maybe who you think it should be, but if you're putting your booking hat on, who's it going to be?
Man, I think the best story that you could do is trying to see, which he kind of seemed like he said he wasn't going to go after the world title and then said he was, or a world championship, the universal belt or whatever. But I think that whoever it is, it needs to be for the belt if you want to absolutely maximize what John Cena is worth and what he's done for the wrestling community. So, I mean, I guess you could do him and Cody or whoever I would like to see him and Gunther, but I think probably him and Cody or maybe him and Roman. That would be the only ones that I could really come up with that I could say, well, looking at it right now, I think it might be one of those. But did anybody else notice how small he looks? Like, that's the first thing I said to my wife. I was like, look how small he is. And she's like, yeah, he doesn't look as intimidating anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, he looks like the small, like, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Honey, I Shrunk the John Cena. Like a shriveled up grape or something, or raisin. So I don't know, man.
He's got like he's got 3 weeks to bulk up before the Rumble. He'll be okay.
Yeah. They probably won't drug test until week 4, so you can, start steroiding it up, seeing if you need to.
That's fair.
Honestly, like I think Gunther fits this mold more than Cody does, because I don't like the idea of ultra babyface versus ultra babyface at WrestleMania necessarily. Now, if you want to turn Cody heel or something like that, then maybe I can get on board with it. I want the Homelander Cody really bad in WWE just to see what he does. But I honestly, I'm leaning towards Cena Gunther, Cena possibly Roman, but the one that I would love to see the most would be John Cena versus Braun Breaker for the IC title. It's the one title Cena has not won. And you want to, you can right every wrong you did with John Cena versus Austin Theory by doing it with John Cena versus Braun Breaker. And I think that could be something really special. We already see how good Braun Breaker is, but can he hold his own in a promo with John Cena? Like, I think it'd be a good moment for him to grow in that area. And then obviously he would give Cena a really, really good match. So I think that would be almost as much as Gunther Cena. I think it would be Breaker Cena.
Yeah, I lean, if it's for a world title, I lean Gunther because I think Cody is just a terrible decision. Again, Andy, unless you're turning Cody heel, and this is the beginning of that, because listen, you're splitting your audience on your biggest stage, and if Cody is the face of your company, that is the dumbest decision because you don't want him to look bad at WrestleMania in front of the biggest crowd. And no matter how much that we like to boo John Cena or Cena sucks or whatever, you get to WrestleMania, we're not booing John Cena in his last WrestleMania match. We're just not doing it. So you're booing Cody Rhodes, and that's the face of the company. Terrible idea. You can have that match at some point, but not at WrestleMania. I would lean Gunther. My pick, and I said this when John Cena announced his retirement tour, Jared, I want to see the WrestleMania match, John Cena versus Logan Paul. I think that is the biggest box office match. Let's Logan Paul's about to fight Conor McGregor. The dude draws attention. John Cena, movie star, all the things, final run. He's got to face Logan Paul. Those two, magic at WrestleMania, in my opinion. Thoughts on that one, Jared?
That's another match I would love to see. You asked which I think is most likely, and I think it's most likely he would go after a world championship of some kind. But I mean, as far as the best match that he could potentially have, I can't think of anybody better than Logan Paul that could just go out there and flip and flop and, basically hit all the aerial moves. I mean, and two big names. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah, right. I like that a lot. But I will say this. I think if you want to go nostalgia route, I would not be against Cena versus Orton or even Cena versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania.
Oh, if AJ is healthy and you could get that.
Run Cena AJ back.
Yes. I mean, Cena Punk, if we're looking for something for Punk, if he's not going for the world title, Cena Punk at WrestleMania. I mean, Punk is the kind of guy who can turn heel for a program and then
easily.
Like, I have no concern about that. So, that would be a whole lot of fun. All right, a couple of quick notes from Monday Night Raw tonight, and then we're going to get ready to get out of here. Appreciate you guys being with us. Again, if you're watching the replay, still drop your comments and your questions. We'll get to as many of those as we possibly can. All right. We have speculated for a long time, and this graphic popped up tonight and absolutely confirmed. Seemingly next week, Penta is coming to WWE. The former Pentagon Jr., Penta El Cetro Miedo from AEW, from Lucha Underground, Mexico, all the places. Listen, if WWE fans have never seen Penta wrestle, Andy, they are in for a huge treat. I just hope he doesn't get saddled in the LWO.
Yeah, that was my big concern, too, is don't put him with the LWO right away. I think an interaction between him and Ray, absolutely do it. Like, do that part. Don't have him in the group. I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. Because this is, while Triple H, yes, is still in charge, and it's very different than it's ever been, it's still not what Penta is probably used to when it comes to professional wrestling. However, if you just need a 5-star match that the people are going to remember on a random episode of Raw, throw Penta out there. Honestly, just the prospect of a random SmackDown, I could see Penta versus Carmelo Hayes, and I'm very excited. Like, I want to see that match happen right now. Or even like a Penta versus Andrade. You can run that back from, when they did that in AEW, and it happened a couple of other times, I think, on the independent scene. So there's a lot that you can do with Penta. It's exciting now. Whenever they finally free Ray up and he can come over and we get the Lucha Brothers properly on WWE TV, it's going to be special. I think, like, immediately they need to go into a program with the Usos. I don't care if they're not together. Put them back together just for that feud. Because those 4 guys would absolutely throw a ladder in there for no reason. Those 4 guys would tear the entire house down.
I mean, I think you should go out and wrestle up Juventud Guerrero and reform the Mexicals personally. That's what I would do with it. That's what I would do.
Forget the LWO. The Mexican full-on riding lawnmower out to the ring. Yes, let's go. Either way, the world of wrestling is in for a treat. They've never seen Penta wrestle. Something else that happened on Netflix Monday Night Raw premiere tonight, we found out that we were getting the first major pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. The Royal Rumble is headed to Saudi Arabia in 2026. Jared, initial reaction.
I mean, we've already had the greatest Royal Rumbles. I mean, where do we go from there, really, is what I wonder. I think you're going to start seeing more and more of these pay-per-views. Everybody knows this. You're going to start seeing more and more of these go to, like, worldwide, to other countries, to other places. And here in the United States, we've been spoiled. We've had all these pay-per-views for years and years. People have gone to them. Me and you have gone to them. I mean, we've been spoiled. And now, whenever that you look, you can't just look at and say, okay, next year I think I want to hit up the Royal Rumble, because you don't know when the frig it's going to be. So I do think that the foreign crowds, foreign as in anywhere outside of the United States, always seem to make it seem bigger and better, because since they aren't spoiled by always having these pay-per-views, they're like excited and about ready to blow the roof off the place.
Right.
So I think it'll look really good across when it comes across on TV. And I think we better get used to it, because it's going to happen more and more.
Yeah, this is the test run for the Riyadh WrestleMania in probably like 2027, 2028, which I'm not a huge fan of, honestly. And I'm not against doing these big shows overseas, because like Jared said, the crowds are 1,000 times better than any crowd here in the States even thinks about being. But the Saudi Arabia crowd is just very different. And I'm a little nervous about what could potentially take place at the show, what could happen. I'm not really too thrilled about it, but it is what it is. And I mean, you can't, if you're in WWE shoes, there's no way you can turn down the money that they are probably getting paid to put on the Rumble in Riyadh. Like, you would be stupid to turn that down. So I completely get it from that aspect of it. And we get a Rumble that starts at noon here in the States next year. So, I mean, that's that's kind of exciting as well.
And they said it's going to be in January 2026. They did not say a day, so that makes me think we could be headed to 2 nights for the first time ever at the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. So not only, Andy, do we get a pay-per-view at noon, we get 2 pay-per-views 2 days in a row at noon, and we don't have to stay up late for it, and it's going to be great.
I like that part.
So we'll see. We'll see. I think it'll be interesting. I'm 100% behind both of you. I get the hesitancy and I get the excitement, and I think it'll be interesting on a good perspective and a bad perspective. We'll have to see how it unfolds. I think I will say this. There was a time where we have all done nothing but sandbag on these Saudi Arabia shows, and WWE has finally made them feel meaningful in some way or another. Are the results still predictable? For the most part, yes. But when the Royal Rumble goes to Saudi Arabia, it's not going to be predictable, because we're on the road to WrestleMania. So something is bound to happen. So that, gives me hope that we'll at least have a good show. It won't be a throwaway, not something that you want to miss. I got one more question, and then we're going to get out of here. And it happened while we were on our holiday break. And I have to ask Andy about it first, because Andy is the young buck. We saw the return of Saturday night's main event, and we saw the return of the Winged Eagle Championship. We saw the return of Jesse the Body Ventura. We saw the neon lights, the skinny entranceway. We saw all kinds of the red, white, and blue ropes, the old school ref shirts, the whole 9 yards. We saw all kinds of crazy stuff. Really, the nostalgia feel of Saturday night's main event. But Andy, you either weren't alive when Saturday night's main events happened, or you at least weren't watching when some of these old school things happened, like these anniversary Raws and all those kind of things. So as the young buck, when you see these legends come back, or these throwback shows, or what have you, how do you look at it? Like, do you look at it as like it's another show? It's cool to see? Or is it like, do you see it like, okay, it was cool for that time, but it doesn't mean anything to this generation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel very different about it now than I did a couple years ago, because part-timers and legends are not as frequent to be involved in stuff today as they were a couple years ago. And so when you get to see some of these legends come back, I think it's really interesting and really cool. I will say this about Saturday night's main event. I love the look of it. I love the old school feel of it. I think everything from that aspect of it was really, really great. And I need more Jesse Ventura on commentary. Like, I need it. He was, I've heard his stuff before, but to see him in a modern twist and a modern take, I loved it. I thought he hasn't lost a step and has continued to kill it. But I also like what I really like about it is it felt retro and it felt old school, but with a very modern twist. Like it didn't feel out of place, while at the same time it didn't take away from what we saw. I think part of that is I think you could pick up a Cody Rhodes character and drop him in the 80s and he wouldn't really he would still be the same guy and it would work still the same. But I love that aspect of it. I thought it worked really well. My only complaint, and I get why they didn't do it, my only complaint is that we didn't get the package pile driver on TV. Like that's the only thing that I did not like, was that it was on social media afterwards. It was not on TV, which I kind of get because that's a very risky thing to do on TV, but especially on that stage. But I still would have loved to have seen it go off air that way than just kind of abruptly ending.
Jared is the old school guy. For me at least, and you obviously weigh in because you're a little bit older than I am, but we grew up watching the same stuff, grew up together watching the same stuff. It's cool to see these things. It's a blast from the past. It's refreshed, but it brings us back to a time when we were growing up and looking at everything through rose-colored glasses. So what were your thoughts on not just Saturday night's main event, but just legends and repackaging of old school things in a new way?
It was weird to not have Hulk or Vince on there. And I guess we know why, especially with Vince. Hulk, I think he just had like another booking. I think that was whenever he was carrying out a flag in UFC for one of their fighters, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
But anyways, other than that, man, I loved it. Like exactly kind of what Andy said. It was enough nostalgia, especially with Jesse the Body on there, that it just brought back all the memories. But also, it didn't they didn't go overboard as far as like trying to make it look vintage, like trying to mess with the color schemes too much, or I thought they did an excellent job of what they did. I don't think they needed to do any more or any less. I hope they keep doing exactly what they did for that first one for the remainder of how many they end up doing. But it definitely made me think about getting those VHS tapes and popping them in the VCR and sitting down and watching the old school Saturday night's main event. Because back then, and people don't realize, Andy may not even, I don't know, but you had a TV guide that would come and like in the mail, or you would go somewhere to buy this thing. But my papa, who got me started watching wrestling, always watched WCW. So there was TBS mainly. I didn't know what channel that WWF even came on, unless I just stumbled across it and then remembered it for next time. And so these shows would happen, and like somebody I know would record them on VHS. It would come out at the local place that you would go to rent movies. I know that's a crazy thing, but that's what we would do. And so I just loved it, man. It was just enough, but not too much.
And not only that, Jared, you're talking about flipping through channels and stumbling upon the show. WWF was always on USA Network with Superstars and with Mania and with Action Zone and with Raw and all these other things. Well, guess what, Jared? Saturday night's main event was on NBC. That's not USA. Who in their right mind knew that NBC and USA were owned by the same company and the same property and all that? We didn't know to tune into NBC once every quarter or what have you. So yeah, I mean, like when we found these things, it's awesome. And it only happened every now and then. And I love the resurrection of stuff like that. I think it's super cool. I like the way that they modernize it. But again, I love the old school feel of it. Sometimes it's a little much. I remember when they did it was an anniversary Raw that they did, Andy. I think it was in like 2013, maybe early 2014, where they tried to bring out the Raw letters, but they had the big screen on top as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
Tried a little too hard. It's like, give me one or the other, not both. It looked like they were trying a little too hard. But regardless, old school ref shirts, neon lights, the whole 9 yards. I mean, Jared, we both have the Mattel neon light entrance set in our wrestling figure collection. We posed under the actual neon entrance at WrestleMania Access. So to see that at Saturday night's main event in the form that it was, it just like it just made my heart flutter. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, and just one thing I wanted to mention earlier, so I'll kind of make 2 quick points and then I'm done. But I remember how happy I was, man. I mean, like sheer excitement whenever I came home from trick-or-treating one time and found a for free WCW Halloween Havoc was on the air. And me and Dad sit there and watched it. We were both so confused because we were like, we're not having to pay for this?
Right.
But anyways, the other point that I wanted to make that kind of tied in with that was we were talking about SmackDown and the new mat that they have, that blue colored mat, really made me go back to like NWA, WCW, that whole feel. And so I think I like the blue mat better than I do the black mat on Raw, just because it reminds me of how it used to be. And I've wondered for so long why that they never brought back the blue ring mats, but here we are. So
here we are. I think it's fantastic. I mean, what's old is new again. That's what happens when Triple H is in charge. He always pays tribute to the old school and finds ways to bring it in. So I think that's super cool. Something we can always, that we can all look forward to, hopefully, in the future. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate you guys hanging with us. Again, drop your comments and questions on the replay of this. We would appreciate it, and we will answer each and every one of them. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We would appreciate that as well. Jared has said his piece, and we appreciate that very much. We appreciate him being on here. Jared has to work every other Monday. That's why we don't get him every week, but we do appreciate when he is here. Andy, anything else to add, man, before we sign off? We're back, man. We are back in the swing of things. It's 2025.
Yeah, it feels like it's been several months since we've done this, but it's good to be back, man. I love doing this every Monday. I love when we get to just sit down and talk about wrestling, because me and you text about wrestling every day almost, and so it's fun to get on this platform and be able to do it. And I'm looking forward to 2025. I'm expecting big things from Triple H and from WWE this year, and even from AEW. And I'm looking forward to see what the year holds.
AEW. What is that? What is that? I'm just kidding. Jokes.
You need to go watch Wrestle Dynasty from New Japan when it was good.
I think I'm gonna just forget about it.
or I'll go watch some old school WWE stuff.
There you go. Yeah, I figured.
I can do that instead. I mean, come on. All right. We appreciate you guys being with us. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Square Circle Radio is back in 2025. We'll try to throw some new stuff at you. We'll try to do some new fun things. But keep it locked in right here for Mr. Jared Justice, Andy York. My name is Chris Belcher. This has been Square Circle Radio Live. We'll catch you guys next week after Monday Night Raw.